Hey guys, Josh Cox from Yellow Umbrella here. Your company is asking us at Yellow Umbrella to facilitate an employee engagement survey, and I want you to understand as much as possible in this brief video about employee engagement, what we measure and why we measure it, namely what factors go into employee engagement. So you're going to be sent a survey link, and you should know a few things first. Look, it will probably take you about 15 minutes, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer. Usually that depends on how much depth of thought you want to put to comments, which I encourage you to do. So feel free to do that. And it's here to do in your work time, but make sure you find a private place to do that. And maybe that is about doing it at home, but that's up to you. Look, it is anonymous. We do ask demographic questions about your manager and department and region, depending on the survey. But it is anonymous. We don't ask for your name, and we don't go looking for individual responses here. What you should know about that, though, is let's not pretend that feedback should be a secret, that particularly your feedback to your manager or the company should be anonymous. In this survey, it is, but we definitely encourage you to find other ways to share feedback to improve on workplace and engagement and all that good stuff. Look, we review the report. We review the raw data, and we create a report for your employer, and that can then be shared around. We give some recommendations and things like that. So the raw data stays with us. And you should know that the questions that are optional, the statements that you respond to are optional. So when we ask you about who your manager is and who your department is, look, answer that. But beyond that, you can feel free to skip if you would prefer not to answer. Do you know what this is, guys? This is the first in-flight entertainment unit on an airplane. Imagine that. There was a time when we used to get on airplanes and fly for a long time without having some sort of AV in front of us. My, how times have changed. Actually, how our expectations have changed. You see, when I jump on a flight to go to Bali, say, I will expect that this screen is sitting in front of me when I sit down. If it's not there, I'm going to be probably quite gutted. If it is there, I'm not going to be screaming from the rooftop. It's an expectation. It's something I look for. And if I own an airline company, I'm considering these sort of things. I'm considering how the customer expectation has changed. And a similar thing has happened in workplaces. There's been a lot of sort of cultural shift over the last couple of decades from a place where we generally went to work and came home to our life, and now we see more tendency for people to want their job to be a part of their life. This is based on Gallup's research into understanding, humans in the workplace and where we thrive and how we're engaged. And look, paychecks are good. That's great. We should be paid well. However, we often look for purpose more these days. We're looking for development over just purely job satisfaction. We're looking for a coach over just a boss. We're finding that ongoing conversations are far more effective than that annual review, and that investing in our strengths, i.e. using the Strengths Finder tool, is far more better than focusing on weakness fixing. So look, our expectations of the workplace have changed, and that's why organizations like yours are brave enough to look into this stuff and are motivated to look into this stuff to ensure that the workplace has what it needs in order to kind of have people that are thriving and loving what they're doing, and they're motivated, and they stick around, and they talk kindly to each other, and they take less sick days and all of that good stuff. This employee engagement thing is all about the emotional connection or commitment that you have to the work that you do. And one very simple sort of example is that, when we're not motivated, when we don't have what we need, we tend to kind of drag ourselves to work and do what we need to do and go home. But when we are connected to the work, when we are more highly engaged, we're more likely to kind of turn up because we want to be there and contribute because that's something that we are emotionally invested in. So this is why employee engagement is really important. Let me give you another quick analogy. When we are trying to increase the fuel economy of a car, there are multiple factors that go into the fuel economy of the car. See, if I want to achieve a greater fuel economy, and knowing these factors, I might make adjustments, I might make tweaks to my vehicle to achieve greater fuel economy. The same thing happens with employee engagement. There are various factors that I'm going to take you through, but the point is that in understanding those factors and measuring them, the company, the managers, the group, the organization, the teams can look to make those adjustments or tweaks to what's currently going on, merely for continuous improvement. So let's dive into these factors. Direction is really important, guys. You'll know this, that when you don't have clear direction, clear expectations, if you don't get it, you're less likely to be engaged. So really important piece here, even though it seems very simplistic, that a factor to employee engagement is direction, that I get it. In the survey, there'll be a few statements that look for you to answer these questions. Statements like, I understand what's expected of me at work, I'm free to ask questions, I know what a good job looks like, that sort of stuff. Cool. We like to say, if the learner hasn't learned, the teacher hasn't taught. So, hey, if you're the learner, if you're unclear, now's a chance, and other times there's a chance, there should be chances, but now's a chance to kind of express whether things are clear or not, so that that person gifting you the instruction can do that well. The next one is provisions. Everyone turns up to do their job really well, but if they don't have the tools or training or technology to do their job well, that can be disengaging. You don't feel sorted. So do you have the tools, training, and technology to do your job well? You know, an example is if you are being asked to do a bunch of Zoom calls and you have poor Wi-Fi, that is a tool that's still doing the job, but not doing it as well as you could. Here's a chance for you to give feedback on provisions or tools. Statements like, I have the training I need to do my job well, I have the tools and material to do my job well. We want to hear from you as to whether you agree or disagree, and comments if you have some. The next factor is well-being. Really important, hey? This is talked a lot in workplaces because it's important. Really, this is about, are you less off as a human and your health as a result of the work that you do? Do you go home feeling less of a person? Are you losing as a result of your work? That's mentally or physically. Or does your employer support well-being and support work-life balance and do things to ensure that your well-being is taken care of? So that is a factor that you will be asked questions on. Sorry, I'll give you a couple of statement examples here. I'm satisfied with how my employer supports my well-being. My manager cares about my well-being. The work I do does not negatively impact my health. That type of stuff we'll be looking for you to respond to. Man, it's massive, eh? The connection you have with the people you spend the most time with. Doesn't mean that they need to be your best friends, but when you have positive, trusting relationships with your crew or your colleagues, you're more likely to be engaged. So we dive into this one because it's a really meaningful one. We give you statements to answer to, like, my manager encourages teamwork, my team work well together, I have positive relationships with the people I work with. And speaking of manager, this one is crucial. Did you know that your manager, and looking at engagement factors and measuring engagement, that managers have 70% influence on how engaged their people are? So it's a big task. No pressure, managers. but it's important to have this positive, trusting relationship with your manager. So of course we're going to dive into this one because it has so much influence. You'll notice that across all the factors, we tend to ask a manager-related question, and then we have the manager as a factor, where we ask questions like, I trust my manager contributes to an enjoyable workplace, I feel comfortable being open and honest with my manager, that type of stuff. All right, moving on from manager and into recognition, another really important and impactful area. Did you know that there was a study done by Gallup on people leaving the workplace, people quitting, and they were asked, why are you leaving? And 74% of people said they were leaving because they weren't seen for the value that they contributed. So recognition, being seen in the workplace is massive. So that's an employee engagement factor that we want to, we do put into the survey and want to hear from you on. There's things like my manager thanks me for the good work. We celebrate success as a team. People are recognized for the right reasons. Those type of statements we're asking for you for your thoughts and response on. Contribution is another factor. Do I have an opportunity to give my opinion, share my ideas, add value to the work? Am I in on it? That's really important. We find that highly engaged workforces do this well, that they bring people in and get them to offer their perspective, etc. So are you listened to? Do you have a chance to do this? The contribution statements might be things like, I'm given a chance to contribute my opinion, my manager asks for my opinion, my ideas are listened to and considered. Really important piece there. Right, moving on to autonomy. While, funny, humans are little complex beings, we are. So we want connection with colleagues and connection to manager, and we want to contribute and we want to be involved and all of that good stuff. But also we want to be left alone with our own decisions to make, our own jobs to own, and we want to be trusted to do those things. Autonomy, I can do this. So we're checking in on your autonomy levels and ensuring that this area of engagement is strong or not. Some of these statements might be, I'm free to manage my time and tasks on my own. I feel trusted from the people around me or my manager. That type of stuff. It's really important to hear from you. Excuse me. So the next one is growth. Humans want to grow. I mean, we did that for the first 20 years of our life, right? And our brain keeps growing until our late 20s. But even beyond that, there's this implicit draw to wanting to be better than we were yesterday. And so that is particularly important in workplaces. Am I getting better? And do I have opportunities to learn, develop, and grow in work? So you'll be asked to respond to statements like, I feel like my skills and abilities have increased as a result of the work that I do. I'm satisfied with the opportunities I'm given to develop my skills, that sort of stuff. And we really want to hear your feedback there. We want to hear that, does this exist and where could this be better? Right. Growth might seem similar to potential, but here's the difference. I could be growing in my role, but I might not feel like I'm reaching my potential yet. If I'm flipping burgers at Burger King and I think that is my potential, I'm more likely to be engaged. But if I'm flipping burgers at Burger King and I think I can run the franchise, well, I'm not necessarily as likely to be engaged there. Yeah. So are you your best self at your work? Do you have the opportunity to do what you do best every day? The type of statements you might respond to are, my manager helps me fulfill my potential. I'm proud of the things that I'm able to achieve. I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day. That's why potential is in there as important. And the last factor in this engagement package of factors is why. Do I know why? Do I have some purpose? People really do thrive when there's meaning. There's higher contribution when there's a purpose involved. And this is why we ask you about purpose. Are you proud to be part of this company? And do you find purpose and meaning in the work that you do? In the statements, you might respond to, I feel connected to the purpose of the company. I understand the goals and objectives of the company. I trust those that lead the direction of the company. Really keen to understand whether you find purpose in your work. So yeah, and by the way, like I said earlier, I think 9 out of 10 people are willing to earn less money in order to do more meaningful work, right? So it's not about earning no money, but if we can find purpose in our work, then there's more connection, more engagement. The last thought that I'll leave you with, and I'll move my little screen here, is that we believe that culture is routines and rituals on repeat, that any culture is a result of what you do most, and most regularly and frequently. Whether you do that deliberately or by accident, that becomes your culture. And so when you're thinking about particularly giving feedback in the comments section around your survey, you might suggest things that are routines and rituals that might help to drive clearer direction, that might help to drive recognition, that might help to drive like connection with colleagues, whatever you might feel needs improving. If you need a frame for your comments, feel free to think about it. And what would I introduce as a routine or ritual that we can put on repeat daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, that could add value in that and under that certain factor. I hope that's helpful. No stress, no pressure to have to speak to that, but that might be helpful to frame your comment. Cool. So that is it from me. Thank you very much for coming on that little intro journey with me. Excited to hear back from you guys and collate the data and go through this. Look out for your survey link and look to get that done by the due date, and you will likely hear back from me as the results come in, and looking forward to continuing to contribute to a higher engaged workforce. Cheers guys, we'll see you next time.